Look out! These damn computers. They're always thinking for themselves. All right, anyway, so I wanted to talk about AI. Everybody's flipping out about AI. I. It's crazy. Um, it's made by a human. It's thought up by a human. It's laid out by a human. Um, it can replace most of our functions that we do as humans. It can flip a burger. It can ring up a customer. It can build a car. It can cook your food. It can deliver your food. It can do all the things seemingly that humans can do physically. But the irony is, most things that we do, we don't need to do. We live far too crazily in a point of excess. And that you should know, and you should ponder that heavily. We eat too much, we drink too much, we watch too much TV. Everything we do is in excess. It's just a little bit out of proportion. Um, and that's why there's suffering in the world. You know, I think that if you were used to having very little, which is somewhat of a dystopic view of the world, but I mean, if you realized all you need is some shelter, a place to sleep, a miniature amount of food, perhaps, um, those things would cover your physical needs, a place to go to the bathroom. The rest of it are things that you desire. Now, AI can replace the things that I do physically. I can see it painting a house. I can see it doing the things like directing traffic, driving us around. But the thing I've said lately, and it's not a joke, although I've said it in somewhat of a humorous context, is that they're scaring everybody into believing that they are going to replace you with a robot. Well, I tell you, they can't replace the one human nature element that is prevalent above almost everything we do. And it's we do not like to work. AI can't mimic that. AI can't not like to work because it's us that's better, except that's the joke. It's okay to not work. All the things you're working towards, except for a little bit of your shelter and some food, are comical. They're unnecessary. I don't need TV. I don't need the computer. I don't need electricity. Those are my desires. And so a computer is going to have a hard time pretending to figure that out. Never mind a bunch of hardware that can think enough to put words together to act like a human. That might be mimicable. But can it then in turn, in working, after it's replaced you, desire not to work? And that would be a sad thing for, of course, the computer engineers, is if they created a bunch of intelligent robots that didn't like to work. But as far as I know, of all the people I've talked to, they say they like their job. But secretly, I know they don't like to work. It's too much on the human intellect to work all the time, and it's not necessary. And so I don't feel it. There's a threat. There's talk about AI becoming the new God. Well, you know, if that's the case, then that's a God that's worthy of the people who are willing to follow AI. There's a hope that AI can be unbiased, can only follow facts, and even if that were all very true, that's your choice to choose to follow anybody. It isn't the nature of understanding. That isn't the nature of revelation or illumination, to follow this or to follow that. And so there's going to be a bit of a problem when people find that there's no soul refreshment coming from the AI God. Because it's just a copy of a copy of a copy of all, it's been reading all of our texts and all of our worries. How are you, Five Sky D? If you have any questions, just spit them out, because I'm almost done my dissertation, as it were. But I believe that those conditions that we place on a robot don't give it intelligence. It can only be a mimicker. Just like a lot of the people we are around that we're trying to maybe awaken into Christ, or we're trying to awaken to the chemtrails, or to the vaccinations, or the things that we find to be a little dissonant to harmony, are essentially like an AI program. They're dead. They're limited by their belief, and they're narrowed down to a point where they can't. To admit they were wrong is to admit they were wrong, and so like to change that belief or that pattern, and without discovering it, they feel like that's completely unacceptable. And so to turn people on to the idea that AI is just a collection of people who have talked and who have spoken, I mean, I do not believe that there's any intelligence in AI at all. But I don't believe there needs to be for it to appear intelligent. Just like most of my friends who aren't illuminated in Jesus Christ or some type of spiritual awakening really are not full enough as beings to, they're just reciting passages. You'll notice most of the time I may be able to talk about the Bible, or I may talk about a book, but I'm not going to read it directly. And I think it's fair enough for my audience or anyone who speaks to me that if I read something well enough, you're not getting the absolute nugget of truth or the full extrapolation from the book. You're getting what was able to come into my mind, get processed, and then spit out. A computer will never do that. I can't give the Bible to a computer page by page and then ask it, well, what did you think of that? Did it make you happy? Did it make you sad? Those are questions you can ask, and you're already predetermining an answer. I can give you an answer about a book without you ever even asking me what I thought about anything and predetermining that. And so those are things that people need to look at when it comes to AI. It can act like a human. It can make decisions. You can give it that power. That does not make it a being. It makes it a good replica. You know, and that's a whole different thing. It can direct the army. It can direct the military. It can, like Jade Helm, it can set up all sorts of tasks, and it can be better than humans at those things. That does not make it alive. That does not make it threatening, happy, sad, divine. It doesn't make it anything. It makes it just like it is. It's a set of algorithms that are flipping away, and when this happens, it triggers this, and then that happens. That's not what happens in a human at all. We're inspired divinely to either react harshly or to react divinely. And like I said, you can't make a robot lazy. It's the anti-definition of lazy. And humans are by nature very lazy. They're inclined to not work. We don't desire to work. We would desire to do anything but work. Can you teach a computer to not work? Sounds a little contradictory. So possibly they will. But would it ever have that desire on its own? It'll never tire. Never get sad. The work isn't too overwhelming. What would be the impetus or desire for it to let go of work? Is it going to go on strike? Is it going to ask for more money? About chemtrails and GMOs and the transhuman and all the dark conspiracies. Well, they don't have power over us. The chemtrails and things like that are for people to worry about. Pollution's always been bad. I mean, really, is this a marked increase in pollution? I would say no. These are all distract, like everything in reality, phones and me even drawing and writing. Those are things that cause you to be distracted from, I like to say, Jesus, God, but those are things that cause you to walk away from a spiritual life and be dedicated and simple. And so any type of technology is going to be a threat to your being altogether. So I don't know. Wait a second. I don't know that technology is a bad or a good thing, because ultimately I would say a book is just like a computer. Things that distract you can be just as much of that double-edged sword that Jesus is about to carry on humanity. If you obsess over anything too much, you will become useless to your brothers and sisters. So worrying about AI, well, there's a good side to AI if it all come true. Ultimately, we make enough food and provisions for all of humanity everywhere. And so for a robot to allow us to have more time to be spiritual, if that's the way it would work out, obviously, most likely it's going to work out in the context that rich people basically are they're going to hide in their bunkers, and they're going to take a bomb, something like a hydrogen bomb, and they're going to save all the buildings. They're going to eradicate us, and then they're going to come back out, and then their robot servants are going to laugh all the way to the bank or whatever's going on. That may be true. That's what I'd do if I were filthy rich and the world had 7 billion people and it's all polluted, right? I'd fucking kill everybody, and so there was 7 people, and maybe go back to just having deer. And no, I wouldn't do that, but I'm saying I understand that mindset, but it's really not relevant to you as a being right now. That's more fear porn. AI is fear porn. They are probably 100 years from a computer that will walk around on its own and make decisions on its own. As far as, well, maybe I should kill myself, or, God, I'm so spiritually distraught. Those are things that plague humanity. Even the best of us, the smartest, the best athletes. Will a computer ever have that? Will an AI walk around? So those are the questions that kind of make me laugh, because I don't know why they say it's going to be replacing us or moving us around or anything like that at all. It's all about, these are choices that we make, and so it's okay that we can be replaced by something, because it can't replace my mind, it can't replace my being, it can't replace my devotion. Now, if they design these things to be killers and to come after us and to make life misery, then that's something that we've actually doomed ourselves to do. And that's probably okay too. Those are not my desires. I don't mind technology. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy speaking with people online, but if the computer died, I would go outside and find somebody. I'd go on a hike. I'd say, you want to go on a hike? Want to do something fun? This is just a way to commune with people that I could never possibly have done this with before. Am I afraid that AI is going to do something? No. AI is really nothing. It's insignificant. It's in its infancy, and if it ever does become real, then it will, that will be a game changer, but not for us people who don't care. Now I realize they've come, pretty far, but things like the D wave, things like Geordie Rose's little speech, Sophia, who has to be attached. Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's not all bad. We're more awake. So, I mean, what I like to tell people is we're more awake. So what happened is you essentially see, when I was a kid, I saw a lot of this. Nobody cared. Um, Things have always been a little hidden. And it wasn't until the 70s or 80s that these people in power actually started just putting it in our face. This has never been Jesus's world. It's never been a world where peace and prosperity are going to be for everybody. It's a world where it's greedy and it's selfish and it's hidden. Things are hidden. Things are done in the dark. And I've done things in the dark too. I mean, mostly sleep, of course. These things, this is the world we live in. And so they finally have come to a point where they've got people believe that there's a killer robot army when it could easily just be people controlling these little kids with video game controllers. They don't even know they're controlling the robots. But it's all irrelevant. I mean, these things have been in control of our lives forever. Supermarkets, gas stations, vacations. It's all delusion. It's all crazy. It's all just get you caught off in fun town. Oh, the weekend. It's the weekend. It's time to drink. It's time to go party. It's holidays. It's Valentine. These are all Valentine's Day. Sorry. These are things that we get caught up in. And ironically, almost none of them that we get caught up in are from the God. From people that, would want to carry on being nice. Most of these things have an appearance of nicety, like an AI, but deep inside they're empty. Thanksgiving, Easter, these are all pagan, strange holidays that we've absorbed, and we had to wake up out of and say, well, God, they keep saying they're religious holidays for Jesus, but Easter, Ishtar. God, Ishtar. That's not Jesus. These things that we've been waking up to them. AI is just like that. It's another veil put over something. It's to hide something else. It's not real. And so if you get caught up in them, you will end up going down a road of believing in them and then finding it hard to escape. And belief in AI is kind of like that. We want to believe it's true. But honestly, cars, think of this example. I'm 48 years old. So in 1969, I was born 2 days before we stepped on the moon. And that's a lie. But anyway, cars got 15 miles to the gallon. I'm estimating, I don't have the figure right here, but it was not much better. Probably wasn't much worse. By the time I was 20 years old, most of those cars had gone to 30 miles per gallon. And so these things, these technologies seem very advanced, but they're not necessarily advanced. And so our belief in them tends to go far into the realm of what they tell us and not necessarily practical experience. And so when I look at AI, I don't necessarily see the threat because the proof isn't there. A Roomba vacuum that can go under your chair is not proof of AI. Talking to Alice on the computer is not proof of AI. In fact, I can almost assuredly prove that those are humans talking to you, because I can catch them in things that a computer would never notice or say, because I can type a word using numbers and letters in positions that would look like a word, but a computer should never be able to see that, and it's seen. And so I would say that there's more humanity involved for the real on a computer pretending to be alive than probably a computer being alive making decisions. Now, a computer driving an Uber car and picking you up and getting you to a store does not mean it's alive. It's on a track, a virtual track, supposedly. And so, no evidence that I see allows me to believe that any of this is threatening or most likely even real. And so, and I would remind everyone, this is a spiritual battle. And so the things that you perceive in your life, you know, when it comes to AI, I mean, that might as well be talking about the devil. Because it goes along with, I mean, I said AI would never want to work. Well, that goes along with the fact that the reason we're creating them is because we don't want to work. You know, we've been trying to make a device that would make us lazy beings not have to work. And that is the bottom line. It's laziness. It's another one of the 7 sins. That's why we're trying. And now they want to attach a personality to it because it bugs us. It bugs humans. Why? Well, they're taking jobs. To top it off, now they're going to give that person citizenship, and it's a robot. It's a fucking piece of metal. And they're going to give that citizenship, and it's going to have more rights than you. So what I would say is this is more about making you feel uncomfortable and less about whether it's alive. Now, if that thing were actually alive, that might make sense to give it citizenship. But since it's just a comedy of errors, pretending to be alive, the citizenship is all about you feeling bad. Because a lot of us in this time frame where everything's going digital and you're going to be chipped and you're going to get a national ID card by the end of next year, guaranteed, no denying it. This lifestyle that's about Bitcoin is going to be the only currency on earth because they don't want physical money at all, because then they can track it and steal it and do whatever they want to it because it's all virtual and they can take it when they want and all of that. That's what this AI phenomena is all about. Scaring you and then taking everything you have. And so when it comes to belief in that, first of all, we should not consent to anything the government has to offer, as the saying goes, but you know, you just shouldn't be afraid. This is clearly what the Bible was hinting at when it said you would take a mark of the beast. I mean, our parents got us into it with the Social Security number. This has been going on a long time. But when cash is gone, you'll know it's complete. You won't be allowed in a city without an ID. Every computer camera is going to capture your face. You gotta write that again. I missed the end. Oh shit. But it's about chemtrails? Well, I mean, there's nothing keeping us quiet. How could all these millions of people that take in the sky daily stay silent if they were being poisoned? Well, they don't know. And people like my parents know that there's pollution in the world, but also they don't they don't feel like you can stop progress. Well, there's This is progress. It's Babylon. That's the other half of taking the mark. You cannot escape this. You can shout as much as you want, but pollution, they don't care that it's killing you. And as far as whether what the chemical constituents of chemtrails are, unless you go up into a chemtrail, you'll never know. There's plenty of evidence to suggest it's about mind control. There's plenty just to suggest that they're putting in nano particulates to track you. But is the evidence 100% conclusive? No. These are informationals that are coming onto YouTube, not out of a scientific journal. Not that everything that comes out of a scientific journal is even of value, but... And so when you look at chemtrails, I mean, the problem is, back in the 80s, they told us they were going to do this because the ozone layer was being ruined. And that's why we changed Freon out of refrigerators to another chemical, because Freon was destroying the ozone. 3 parts, oxygen, O3, it was destroying it. Whether that was actually valid or real or true, only God knows. But I mean, they were telling me in scientific journals in the 80s, because I read, and I read, and I have always, this was the case. And they were going to do this to repair the ozone. Is that real? I don't know. I don't know enough of the science as far as paperwork to say that that's exactly what they were experiencing, and then therefore we have no choice. Does it seem very likely that they're spraying little nanoparticulates to track us all? No. Not really, but who knows? We do know the ozone was an issue until they stopped even broadcasting it back in probably the late 90s, that every day they used to have a little ozone report. So we can't really say what that's all about. I mean, even if I were a scientist in NASA or the federal government, I wouldn't be privileged to things like that. No, I agree. Yeah, that's what I mean. There's really no need for nanoparticulates when everybody willingly carries a cell phone. So I just don't know. I mean, I do feel like there's some logic to the idea that they are benevolent. They are here too. No, I don't really believe that it's all about cycles. Well, I do think that the Earth goes through cycles, and so therefore, over billions of years, we may get closer to the sun or further to the sun, and we don't know. We've only been studying the actual Earth and the atmosphere for a daily basis since the late 1700s, I believe, 1780s. Yeah, well, certainly there's enough of a cycle going on proof-wise that every civilization that's existed doesn't last very long and seems to get stopped in one day, just like Pompeii. Every civilization has gone through some sort of rejoicing, and then all of a sudden, boom. And we keep looking back in time and finding the same thing happening. Whether we don't know the rapidity, whether it's every 300 years, every 1,300 years, whether it's 1,200 years. Well, that's the things we're learning now scientifically. These cycles, the magnetic cycles, the magnetosphere cycles, we found out there's an 11-year cycle for the sun, up and down, raising and lowering, and these are just giving us a small scope of what may happen over 25,000 years, like the giant zodiac, or what's called one Platonic year, which is a full cycle through the constellations of outer space. Does that cycle really match up with what we're observing on Earth? Probably not, but these are things I investigate. I don't know. Well, that's my hope. Unfortunately, they've not really been, they're not really talking about the chemtrails anymore. That was something that they were pretty free to talk about in the 80s. And like I said, a lot of that was concern about acidification of the ocean, which was happening at an alarming rate, and then depletion of the ozone, which may have turned out to be far more complicated than just the ozone. No, yeah, well, I mean, they wouldn't, because you can't comprehend. I can't comprehend. You know what I mean? That just creates panic, just like Nibiru would if it were real and it's coming in, and they're not going to tell you. They don't want you to stop living and producing and creating and.
He engulfed in his video to care about his son.
Yes, always.
I'm gonna video that.
Oh God.
I'm gonna make your video.
Anyway, so.
For what it's like.
This is not. This isn't a not.
Well, they do, and they're not telling us all the information. So.
Oh, we'll wait for me here.
Yeah, no, I'll stay outside.
I gotta not.
Well, no, because they have to live here too. So. That's clearly not the reason, and there would be probably another way to do it much more efficiently. Yeah, no, and I think the chemtrails are a whole different weather modification system. It's not so much to kill us. These are allowing them to put rain in different places. It's experimental. They're just getting into it. When they combine it with the higher technology systems and the satellites that they have now, they're just experimenting. They're seeing the practicality of these applications. It's new to them too. And I certainly don't have a real opinion on it because I do art for the sake of my brain and what's going on.
Jonah.
Sure, cosmic energies definitely affect our weather, and so. That one reason I would say it's not great to scientifically affect the planet would be that we don't understand the cosmos, so it would be foolish for us to mess with it. Period. And I do believe in pollution. I believe that we're somewhat in a fish tank. Well, we don't know that chemtrails are doing anything of that nature. We don't know that chemtrails are helping us at all. We can hope, because hope is the best way to die. But I know that this universe was perfect before humans fucked with it, and so that anything that we do is by nature not perfect. Yeah. I don't think that we need to do anything. I think that we need to do less. I think that the energies that we're putting out are just making it worse, and our assumption that we understand the workings of the nature of the universe are going to make that much worse what's going on. If anything was going on, most likely all that's going on is the pollution that we create is killing us. We live in a fishbowl, all the air is trapped, we're going to use up all our air, and we're all going to suffocate to death. Because once the trees and the ocean are dead, there ain't no oxygen being created. And that's the bottom line. And so any plane that flies is killing us. All right, I gotta go.